Utah. It was a long trip to get here, but thank you. You guys are so nice. I flew here, it took all day long. They flew me here in coach, but to their credit, Dry Bar apologized for flying me coach, but explained that they couldn't find anything cheaper. So, but it's good to get out, right? It's good to get back to some type of normalcy after all we've been through this last couple of years, right? But you know what? But I think I was intent that something good was going to come out of this to me. I really tried to focus on the positive. Like, for example, I couldn't wear these pants before the pandemic. They were way too loose. But now, they are nice and tight, baby. Let me tell you. That never would have happened without sitting home for a year eating. Also, I stopped drinking during the pandemic. And thank you, yes. But I love beer, so I started drinking no alcohol beer. Have you ever had it? It's really good. So I go to the store to buy it. I don't know how it works in Utah, but in my state where I'm from, and I wanted to quit. I had to quit drinking because I read the article that said that drinking can make you look older, and I turned 30 this year. So. But in my state, I live in Connecticut, which for my Spanish-speaking friends, you know, it's a Spanish word that means with Necticut. But in my state, and I don't know if it worked here, if you were over 60, because I'm 63, you could go into the store an hour early. Did that work like that here? Yeah. So I'm going into the store to go buy my no alcohol beer, my Heineken Zero, and the girl stops me going in, and she makes me pull my mask down. She wants to see my license to prove that I'm over 60. And then she apologized, and I say, no need, it's an honor just to be nominated. And then I go do my shopping, and I go to the cashier to pay for my no alcohol Heineken Zero, and she wants to see my ID to prove that I'm over 21. Why? It doesn't have any alcohol in it. Plus the fact, whose life has been so tragic, they look like this at 20? What could have possibly happened to you? She should be holding a benefit from me, not IDing me. Were you raised in a coal mine by crows? How did this happen? And if I could do this to my face and body at 20, you don't think I'm capable of producing a fake ID? But I comply, I show my license, and as I'm walking out of the store, I realize I've really come a long way in 63 years, haven't I? I went from buying real beer with a fake ID to buying fake beer with a real ID. What a lifetime achievement award I should get for that or something. Don't you think so? But also, a lot of good things that came out. All the shelters were emptied, all the animal shelters. Were totally empty during the pandemic. I think that was a very big positive. Even my daughter, she rescued a puppy named Rue. And on Rue's birthday, her and her friends threw an actual birthday party. It was so endearing. I mean, they had a cake and food, and they decorated the place, and they had birthday hats, and even Rue had a birthday hat. It reminded me when I turned 60, and my daughter sent me that text that said, Happy B-Day. I like this crowd. You're better than the first crowd. The first crowd was so rude. I mean, they just kept laughing and clapping. You guys just stare and judge. I like that. It's nice, you know? It's nice. People can nap and read. I can be alone with my thoughts. Actually, not fair, because a couple years ago, my daughter threw me a surprise party. It was actually like a real surprise party. I don't know if you've ever been to a surprise party, but the person always knows, and everybody knows, and they knows, and you all pretend like, surprise. But this was actual shock. I walked in, all my close friends and family were there, and it wasn't even my birthday. I mean, technically, it was an intervention, but, you know. Really, what's the difference between an intervention and a surprise party? The only difference is it is an intervention. You're the only one that's drinking. But other good things came out of it. I got to bond with my granddaughter. And that's because my son and his wife both work from home, so I had to watch her every day, and that was great. You know how I knew I was going to have a granddaughter and not a grandson? My son called me on the phone and told me, like a normal human being. No, because now they have these things called gender reveal parties. Are you familiar with this crazy nonsense? Has everybody lost their mind? People are getting dynamite and making explosions to tell the world the gender. They're losing, like, fingers, and some people are dying. You know, just so you can tell people the gender of your upcoming baby? It's ridiculous. If it's a pink cloud, it's a girl. If it's a blue cloud, it's a boy. If it's a white cloud, it's a pope. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't... Crazy. I mean, I was at a gender reveal party in Thailand about 20 years ago. Totally different. Definitely not for children. But I'm driving my granddaughter one day, and I don't know if what happened. I put a car seat in my car for my granddaughter. What happened with car seats? You know, when my kids were young, you know, you take it, you put it in, you unlock it, you put it in another car, you carry them in it, whatever. Now you need like a degree in engineering to install one of those things. It takes like 3 hours to put in a car seat. You know, back in my day, it took 2 minutes. I mean, granted, a lot of kids went flying through the windshield, but still, you know, it was a lot easier. So I'm driving around my granddaughter today. She's sitting in the car seat, and the light turns yellow. So instead of like slowing down and waiting for it to turn red, I speed up so I can make the light, and I make the turn like a little bit too sharp and too fast. We can hear like the tires squeal. I know. And from the back seat, I hear my granddaughter scream, "You stupid old man! You drive like a moron, Grandpa." And I'm not even like upset that she would speak to me that way. I'm more in shock that a week before her second birthday, she's able to have a thought and express it in a way that's not only grammatically correct, but factually accurate, if I'm honest. And I look back at her, and she's got this sweet little smile on her face, and I realize she didn't say, "You stupid old man, you drive like a moron, Grandpa." The woman on the bicycle said that. I was just distracted because I had never seen someone on a bicycle actually do a somersault before. It's like, those extreme sports are really getting impressive. But then later on, I was a little offended by it. She calls me Grandpa because I'm old. Like, why in this system of, like, you know, this state of political correctness is ageism so acceptable, right? I mean, if you use the wrong, I accidentally used the wrong pronoun addressing somebody, said she instead of they. You would have thought I killed their parents. I didn't make the same mistake twice. But thank you, one person. But, you know, why is that? But everybody has a group defending them, except for old people, you know? It's just like, you know, if you use the wrong pronoun or something, if you have whatever, people will attack you. But if you still have an AOL email address, nobody cares about you, brother. Back in line. Try putting an AOL email address on a job resume. The only person hiring you is Blockbuster Video. I don't think it's right. Where are my over 60s in here? Yeah, I think we need our own Pride Month. Don't you think so? I think December would probably make it work, you know? We probably forget about it, though, because we're such cognitive decline. I know I am. You know, every time you see one of those silver alerts that shows like some old man got lost, he went out in his car, and they show the license plate number, I always check out the license plate number to make sure it's not mine. And then I don't remember what my license plate number is. You know, sometimes I walk into a room and forget why I walked in there, and inevitably somebody will say to me, "What are you doing in my house?" Because even my granddaughter, I realize every time I'm with her, every day she's getting more cognitively aware and more physically stronger, and every day I'm getting less so. That means every time I'm with her is my best chance of beating her in a street fight. Gotta think about these things. But you get attitude just, I think we need our own movement. I even have some slogans for us. We're here, we can't hear, get used to it. If you're from Florida, don't say gray. We won't have a march. That's too much work. We'll have like a mall walk. Maybe like 10 minutes. And we'll stop at Starbucks. But you get attitude. Like I check into the hotel and a young girl behind desk, and she's giving me attitude because I'm an old man. Immediately. I check in, I said to her, is there a gym in the hotel? She says to me, what's his last name? Nasium? It's me? Then she puts me in a handicap room. Excuse me, wheelchair accessible. Anybody rolling up on me after the show? But have you ever stayed in one of these rooms? They're huge. You could have a racquetball tournament in one of these rooms. What I don't understand is on the door, they have the peephole, where the peephole normally is, and then they have another peephole halfway down the door for someone in a wheelchair. Why? Unless the person on the other side of the door is also in a wheelchair. Or Peter Dinklage, it doesn't make any sense. Who's at the door, honey? Somebody's crotch. I don't know. Why am I always answering the door? And then I get to my hotel room, and there's no desk. There's no chair at the desk. I like to sit and write. And there's no robe in the closet. So I said to the housekeeper, Rosa, I said, could you bring me a chair and bring me a robe? She says, right away. She brings a chair right away, but she has to look for a robe. I'm like, well, why don't you just go where they keep the robes? It's a big mystery. See, today you can bring that robe, right? Still looking. Get a knock on the door before I came to the show. Open the door. Rosa's standing in the hallway. She's holding something in her arms. It's kind of big. I said, what do you got there, Rosa? She says, your rope. She had somewhere found and brought me a big ball of rope. I'm like, Rosa, no, not rope, a robe, a bathrobe, like you put on after a shower. And then she finally understood and she went and got it. And I was laughing about it. But then, later on, I was thinking, oh, wait a second. She thought I asked her to bring me a chair and a rope and she brought it for me? What if I asked her to draw me a bath and toss me a toaster? Would she have done that as well? So that's just weird. And here, you here with these your kids? You're here? Huh? Girls, both of them? I mean, both girls are yours? Not are they both girls? That would be or young ladies. Okay. We're gonna get in trouble with anybody here. Yeah, it goes quick, huh? How old are you? 23 and 18, yes. That went like that, didn't it? 1 minute, this little infant just crying and pooping in their pants. And before you know it, the girl got a driver's license. You see that insurance bill, and you're crying and pooping in your pants. What happened to my youth? Were they good drivers? My son was a good driver. He was a bad stopper, unfortunately, yeah. Yeah, some people use the brake to stop the car. Not Chris. He used trees, buildings, and other cars. He didn't care. He wasn't wearing down those brake pads needlessly. He took driver's ed twice. He was still clueless. I was driving with him once when he was in high school. It comes like a four-way stop intersection. He gets brain freeze. He goes, Dad, I forget. Who has the right of way? I'm like, you're driving a 1987 Chevy Nova. You always have the right of way. I always tell young parents with young children to learn from my experience that one day that child's going to turn 16 and get a learner's permit. You got to take them on the road and teach them to drive. This is what you do. You drink while you're teaching them. Yes, you get a bottle of vodka or something, you just drink right from the bottle. What happens is the police see it, the kid loses his license, you're off the hook. I'll save you more money than Geico. Because they're all cute when they're young and they become teenagers and they torture you, right? When my son was little, he was such a good kid. I remember he said to him one day, I said, Chris, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember he looked up at me, he goes, Daddy, I just want to be with you and Mommy forever. Right? Yeah, I almost cried. It was so touching. Then he went away to college and became a philosophy major. And I was like, oh, he wasn't kidding. He's going to be around a while, isn't he? Unless some big philosophy corporation comes along, Starts throwing the cash around, because most companies are looking for C students who are good at beer pong. That's not fair. He graduated from college. He had a minor in philosophy. His major was history, because that's where the money is, in the past, apparently. So after 4 years of studying history, he was back home again, unemployed. See, history does repeat itself. All right, good for me. That was money well spent. Because sending a kid to college these days is like giving an 18-year-old $200,000 and sending them off to Las Vegas for 4 years. Right? Then after 4 years, just looking at him going, anything? Nothing? But you had a good time, right? As long as you had fun, because it's all about you. Don't worry about me. I'll work after I'm dead. As long as you have fun. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to have him being back home after being away for 4 years. It made our home so much nicer with him sleeping 12, 14 hours a day in it. It was like having a koala live with us. Yeah, did you know koalas sleep 20 hours a day? How do they reproduce? They wake up once a day, look around, and go, not today. One time, my son slept 16 hours in a row. In a row. Wouldn't you love to be able to sleep 16 straight hours? I would love that. Oh, if I did, I'd wake up in a pool of urine. I'd miss about 5 trips to the men's room. I think you fellas know what I'm talking about, don't you? Sure you do. Be nice to get the rest, though. I keep hearing this term in the United States, generational theft. The theory is that we as Americans are committing generational theft on the youth of our country because of the debt that we're passing on to them. Let me tell you something, folks. I've seen our kids. They ain't worried about it, all right? Rack it up. China's never getting that money. Oh, China will call, but our kids will keep changing the number. There are clues when it comes to financial responsibility. I'll give you an example. I remember my son moved back into the house after he was in college. I come in the house one night, and it feels like my house is on fire, so hot. I look at the thermostat. The thermostat is set to 85. I wasn't even aware the thermostat went up that high. I said to my son, "Were you messing around with the thermostat?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I put it up a little bit." I said, "You know, you put it up to 85. This is what my college-educated son says to me. "There's numbers on there." Yeah, there's numbers on that and the bill that comes with it. Clueless. I remember the kids one day was like moping around. I said, "What's the matter, Chris?" He says, "Thanks a lot, Dad. You drank up all the beer." I said, "I did not. Left that beer in there that you bought." He said, "I didn't buy any beer." I go, "Exactly. Beer fairy don't come here no more." It starts when they're in high school. That's when they start driving you crazy, right? I remember I come to the house one night, my son's like a junior in high school. Sitting on the countertop in the kitchen is his wallet. Just leaves it anywhere. In it, I see his New York driver's license. Right underneath it, there's a New Jersey driver's license. We don't live in New Jersey. I doubt he secretly purchased land in New Jersey. Fake ID, just leaves it anywhere. It's not bad enough. I pull it out, I'm reading it. It says he was born in 1938. I'm like, you trying to get into a bar or an AARP meeting? Some people have a lot of kids. Like that show, 19 and Counting, remember that? Those sociopaths, 19 children. That's when we had that many kids lived in a shoe and didn't know what to do. They wanted to raise a big family. That's nonsense. I know big families. My mother had 11 brothers and sisters, okay? The parents don't raise those kids. And if you're from a big family, you can back me up. The parents don't raise the kids. They raise the first kid. That kid raises the next kid right down the line. It's not a family, it's a Ponzi scheme. 19 kids, you imagine? I have 2 children. I said if my daughter was the first, it wouldn't have been a second. My daughter was a colicky baby, so we had to carry her for the first year of her life where she would not sleep. I remember she was like 3 weeks old and the whole family was sleepless, and I'm standing in the kitchen just trying to keep my eyes open. My son comes down to get like a juice pack or something. I just got to mess with him. I don't know what's wrong with me. He said, "Chris, come here, I got to talk to you." He said, "I don't think Mom and I can handle Caitlin. I think we're going to have to give her back to the hospital," I told him. Just to get like a rise. I'm like, "Oh, Mike, you can't do that." You know what he said? "You got to do what you got to do." Nice brother, huh? But I can't believe I'm at the age. I remember when I was young, and I hear old people complain about young people. They'd always be like, these kids today with this and that. And but I'm actually at the age now, I'm using the expression, these kids today. Because what are these kids today and their inability to concentrate? You know what I'm talking about? Every other kid you meet's got ADD or ADHD, which is ADD in high definition. They're all on Ritalin and Adderall. We didn't have these problems when I was a kid. You know why? Because when I was a kid, they took out your tonsils. Remember? They stopped doing that. That's why you have these problems. Think about it. You're 6 years old and somebody rips something out of the back of your throat, you pay attention after that. You don't know what they're coming after next. You take out their tonsils, they'll pay attention in class. Plus, this generation is distracted by technology. I was on the plane, there was a 6-year-old kid sitting next to me with a laptop computer, 6 years old. And my laptop was when I was 6, Etch-a-Sketch. I'd sit there for hours trying to make a circle. This kid's doing his taxes. I don't know what he's doing. And nothing. The Slinky, remember the Slinky? What kind of cheap, sadistic toy was the Slinky? It was a great gift idea for a small child. Something to play with at the top of the stairs. And I'll tell you one game that I'm going to go in. How sophisticated the computer games get? Once a year, out of the back of the closet, comes the Monopoly game. I hate that game. Does anybody enjoy playing Monopoly? Yeah. Do you? Liar. Did you ever finish a game of Monopoly? To me, playing Monopoly is like being trapped in a bad marriage. It just goes on, and finally one person says, look, I can't do this anymore. You know, just take the money and the houses and the car and take it all. Leave the thimble. I'll be making my own clothes from now on, so thimble stays with me. Then I play with my kids who are highly competitive. They got houses and hotels all over the board. Meanwhile, Dad's got a FEMA trailer on Baltic Avenue, just trying to make it back to free parking one more time. Anybody else have young girls? And anybody else? I've had the joy of having a teenage daughter in the house. Having a teenage daughter is like having an abusive spouse. Every time I come home, I'm like, I hope she's in a good mood. They will just torture you. I got a shower day and I was singing because I was momentarily happy. I don't know, I must have had a mini stroke or something. My daughter's at the bottom of the stairs. She's glaring at me. I think something's wrong. So what's the matter, honey? She goes, I'm on the phone. I'm sorry, is my making sound disturbing your phone call? I'll try to keep down. I read at the mortgage payment. Okay, princess? A father to a teenage girl is basically just an ATM machine that embarrasses her in front of her friends. My daughter actually gave me one of these and like this. She goes, do you have any money? Do you have any money? Yeah, I'm set pretty good. Thanks for asking. How about yourself? I'm on the phone. And then with teenage girls come teenage boys. See, a lot of fathers freak out when their daughters start dating. I try to counsel younger dads. A lot of fathers make the mistake of trying to intimidate the boy. That's a big mistake because your daughter gets embarrassed, she gets angry at you, you lose. I had my own system for dealing with teenage boys, worked perfectly. Right? And I try to tell you, if you ever try it, it worked. Teenage boy to come to my house to pick up my daughter, I'd answer the door, I'd be like, my baby got some good taste, don't she? Turn around, sugar, let me check you out. Whew, you must work out and stuff. I like to get a piece of that myself. And they never come back again. And she thought it was her fault. I gotta have some water here. One thing my doctor told me you gotta stay during the pandemic is that the best thing you can do for your immune system is to stay hydrated. And you know he told me you can tell if you're properly hydrated? This is true. Maybe your doctor told you the same thing. He said when you tinkle, for lack of a better word, it should be clear enough to read a newspaper through. But who reads newspapers anymore, right? Anyway, that's how I ruined my iPad. Stupid doctor. Oh, I'm feeling so old. You guys having a good time tonight? This is nice being out again. I had a good workout today. I'm old, but I'm strong. Today I lifted 250 pounds by myself. I got up out of a chair. But one thing about spend so much time with my granddaughter during the shelter-in-place thing. It's just that I am now, Disney songs go around my head 24/7. Like I just can't get them out. Between Frozen and all this Encanto, and her favorite is Moana. Like out of nowhere the other day, I just scream out like, "I am Moana!" Which incidentally is not the correct response to the question, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" You know what the correct response to that question is? If you never ever want to get a ticket again, and I know this because the first time I ever got pulled over, I was 17, my father was a minister, and there was a Bible in the car. And you need a Bible to get away with this. And I've never ever had a moving violation. If there are any police officers here, they'll back me up. Next time you get pulled over, when the cop walks up the side of the car, when he says to you, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" You look right at him and go, "Yes, I do. God wanted you to stop me so I could talk to you tonight about our Lord and Savior." All right, just go ahead. And you'll never get a ticket again. You know, Charlie Chaplin once said, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." And I truly hope today wasn't wasted for you. Thank you so much, everybody.